Hey folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. It's possible new Leeds United starting lineup video again. Done a couple of these now. Previous ones were done with players that I would have liked to have seen Leeds sign, along with players that they've actually signed and players that they've been linked with. This one is solely players they've been linked with, aside from the ones we've already signed. A couple of players that we've also signed that are not in this lineup, and I'll explain why as the video goes on. Also a couple of alternative players that could possibly still be under consideration by the club. I'll mention those as we go along. So, starting at the back, Lucas Perry made his debut for Leeds versus Everton. Did alright, kept a clean sheet. His kicking could do with a little bit of work, but he did make one or two very important saves, and also his claiming from crosses and corners looked pretty good. So quite an imposing presence at the back there for Leeds. So yeah, promising start. He's going to come up against far stronger strike forces in the future, there's no doubt about it. But a nice steady debut for Lucas in the Leeds United goal. Now, the first of the players here which have been rumoured for Leeds to be interested in is current Leicester right back James Justin. Justin is a player who's still in his 20s, I believe, and has had a couple of caps for England way back when. That was certainly when he was at the peak of his powers, that's for sure, and also when Leicester were at the peak of their powers. He's versatile, can play both left and right back. So it's kind of just like a younger Byram in a sense, but certainly a player who Leeds have definitely been linked with, and I would say would be affordable. If I was to hazard some kind of random guess, I would say somewhere between 8 and 12 million. Should be enough to get him, I would think. I'd be very surprised if it was going to cost anything more. And so, you know, he's got a bit of Premier League experience as well, so for that, you know, for those kind of reasons, and it would be another English player on the books, which, you know, for all the foreign signings that we've made, it would look good in terms of the kind of like the, you know, English or British quota that you've got to have in your registered 25-man squad by the time the window closes. So that would definitely help. On to centre backs. Seb Bornow didn't make the team. Well, didn't make the starting 11 for Leeds against Everton, but he was on the bench. Just in terms of transfer fees as well, we signed Perry for about 15 million. We signed Bornow for about 5 million, and good to see that he was available, because we didn't have Biol available due to a suspension that he had from when he played in Italy, which I find really stupid. I don't agree with that at all. Either way, it's by the by now. Yeah, so Seb Bornow got him for just 5 million is you know, potentially a really good deal. You know, if he's a good centre back, then 5 million's a snip in this day and age. Next to him is Biol, who unfortunately was, as I say, suspended, so unavailable for the match against Everton, but was in and around the squad. You know, he was there. He watched on and seemed very happy with the results and everything. So, you know, Biol's a player who could be quite an interesting signing. You know, he's an absolute mountain of a centre back. You know, just looking at him, comparing him to Strauch and Roden, and neither of those boys are small, and Biol matches. He's absolutely crazy. Be all signed for around 16, 17 million, something like that, I think. So we might get to see him against Arsenal. I don't know. Depends what Farke's decisions are going forward. And then next to him on the left back position, Gabby Gudmundsson. Again, can't fit his whole name on there because it cuts off part of his name at the end, so I just take the vowels out. But yeah, Gudmundsson had a very good debut. Very, very good. He was one of Leeds' best players outside of the three midfielders that were playing. Excellent game for Gudmundsson. Very, very good. I think he's a bit of a dark horse signing. Out of all the signings we make this season, I just reckon that Gudmundsson could be a real find. For 10 or bought for 10 or 11 million, which again, it's not a bad buy. If he ends up being a good player, it's a pretty good value buy in that. And already looks a decent replacement for for the last 2 seasons was a very good Junior Firpo. So yeah, very, very pleased with Gudmundsson's debut there. Excellent. Moving on to the right wing now. This was a bit difficult to find players that Leeds have actually been linked with to potentially play on the right wing. However, I did find a rumour that was going around a little while back for Juventus right winger Nico Gonzalez, fully fledged Argentina international. Looks a good player. I mean, if you're getting umpteen caps for Argentina, you can't be that bad, can you? So there is that possibility. We'll have to just wait and see on that one. Another possibility is, and it is another possibility for a more attacking central midfield player, if you like, is Emi Buendia, who can fill in at right wing, as well as like a 10 or an ACM. But yeah, Gonzalez is someone that, maybe again, if we can get him for somewhere between maybe 18 and 22 million pound, I think that would be a really good buy. And again, because we haven't even spent over 100 million yet, there is potential there for that kind of deal to go ahead. Anton Start, good debut, very good. I've kind of said before in previous videos, this player looks like he can do a bit of everything. He's 6'4", but he's quite quick. He can pass, he can tackle, he can shoot, he can take set pieces. There's not a lot he can't do. He's a good all-round midfielder. And again, for around 17-18 million, I think this could be a really good purchase. Really, really good. He could be a standout player in the Premier League, let alone Leeds. Again, we've only had one game so far, but yeah, fair play to to Underwood and the rest of the scouting team for and Daniel Farke himself, who was probably aware of Stack from his time in Germany. Yeah, very, very good debut, and I mean, it was part of a 3-man midfield that just certainly first half in particular, just bossed it against Everton. Everton didn't know what to do. They were absolutely stunned at how good Leeds were in the midfield with Ampadu, Tanaka and Stack. Those three just bossed it, especially first half. It was really, really good. So this next one could be a bit controversial maybe. But in an attempt to maybe save a little bit on the transfer funds to spend elsewhere, I just wonder if taking a loan punt at Calvin Phillips could be an option, especially on the basis that we've just lost Ethan Ampadu. Phillips has got experience, he's English, he's homegrown as well because he came through the Leeds Academy. If we can get him on a loan deal, maybe with an option or obligation to buy at the end of the season for, I reckon we'd get him on a cut price, maybe 10 to 15 million, I would think. I just have a feeling that could be that could be a very shrewd loan signing if he's fit enough. I've heard he's had some kind of operation recently, but I just think that Farke is the type of manager that could potentially get the best out of Calvin Phillips. Now with Phillips, you know, he can play as a 10, as an 8, as a 6. You know, he can play anywhere in midfield really. You know, he knows what it takes to play for Leeds, and when you get the best out of Phillips, it's a bloody good midfielder. Again, the other alternative option would be Emi Buendia, who again is you know, a player that Farke knows from his time at Norwich. I think that with Buendia, they'd probably be looking at a permanent deal rather than a loan. Merely depends on the circumstances that Buendia's in right now. But I just wonder about Phillips just having that homegrown box ticked and knowing what it takes to play for Leeds, and you know, the fans are getting behind him obviously, and you know, because things have been so bad for Phillips since he left Leeds in the first place. I just wonder if, you know, he's had his time earning far more money. He's had his time playing Champions League. He's had his time, you know, winning titles and trophies and all the rest of it. Is now the time for him to come back to Leeds, now that we're a Premier League club again? Is now the time for Phillips to come back, get fit, and have a part to play? I just wonder. As I say, I think Buendia is possibly the realistic option that has been linked with Leeds. Phillips has been very loosely linked with a loan move, and I just wonder, with this injury keeping Ampadu out for potentially up until the first international break, which is at about 6 or 7 games in. You know, I don't know for sure, because I hate international breaks. I try not to think about them. But yeah, I just wonder about Calvin maybe coming back to Leeds on a loan deal. As I say, if we stay in the Premier League, you can put an obligation to buy in if we stay up. If we do get relegated, which I hope we don't, but if we do get relegated, maybe an option to buy. So if we get relegated, and again, if Calvin's agreeable to coming back to Leeds, even though we'd be in the Championship, you know, some kind of cut price deal, maybe 8 to 10 million. But if we do stay up, you know, anywhere maybe between 10 and 15 might be acceptable on Man City's side of things, because as far as I'm aware, that's where he's still contracted. He's never going to get in. He's never going to play for him. That's my take on Phillips. I think if we can get him on loan, I think it's a low risk. I think it's another box ticked. It's a very low risk signing. We'd have to pay a lot of wages. You know, we'd have to stump up a lot of wages, but that would, you know, if the amount that Leeds have got available for transfers and wages, if it's looking all right, we might be able to just balance things a little bit. And Man City might think to themselves, look, you know, even if we can get a chunk of Phillips's wages off the books and get him playing, it's a win-win situation. Moving on to Sean Longstaff. He came on as a late substitute for Leeds. Didn't do anything wrong. Looked okay from what I could tell, as he wasn't on the pitch long enough really. But he got signed for, you know, what looks like a good deal at around 12 million. There is a possible add-ons to take it up to 15, I believe. But Longstaff's vastly experienced at Premier League level, and you know, comes in as a very reliable midfielder. He's one of those that he's probably one of those that will probably end up being like a 7 out of 10 every match. kind of thing. He'll get the basics right, and he'll have a bit of leadership quality as well. I think, having played in England for so long and played for Newcastle for so long and played in the Premier League for so long, he's an established player now. Again, I think for the money we've spent, I think it's a decent deal. And then on to the new boy, who's literally just been officially confirmed today. Noah Okafor, bought from AC Milan for roughly around £19 million. There's rumours of it being anything from 18 to 22, but I mean, who knows? So I'm going to take a punt. I'll take a punt at 19, because it's been estimated in both pounds and euros as well. So I reckon it's probably around that. Looks a decent player. Played in the friendly for AC Milan against Leeds United in pre-season, and certainly looked like one of Milan's best players on the day. It's only time will tell on that one, but he's a full Switzerland international, left winger, and he is a Leeds United player. So let's see what he can do. The good thing is that he won't require a vast amount of fitness training to get up to speed, because he's been very active in pre-season, playing plenty of matches. So really, the training for Noah Okafor is going to be all about integrating with his new teammates and learning the style and the formation and the strengths and weaknesses of the team around him, and hopefully having an opportunity to show what he can do. But by all accounts, looks a good signing. So let's hope he does well. He's another one of the plus 6 foot clan as well. So yeah, that's the latest on the left wing. We've now nailed down the left wing situation, and then finally Demirovic. Now he's a Bosnian international, reasonable scoring record. There has been rumours of him having Leeds interested in him. I think that on the basis that we got Lucas Nemecha and Dominic Calvert-Lewin on free transfers, I think that those two players are really replacing Patrick Bamford and Mario Joseph. I think that the club will still look for a primary starting number 9. And Demirovic ticks quite a few boxes. Now, this is the one signing that could take us over 20 million to get him. Other players that have been mentioned is Dovbyk at Roma, who I think, looking at Dovbyk's scoring record, I would prefer Dovbyk personally if we could get him. I think that'd be a real sign in the Ukrainian. Very, very good goals and assist record in recent years. Demirovic still looks decent, but if it were me, I'd be going for Dovbyk myself. Monies at Fulham seems to be dying down, and I think most of that's due to the fact that they want around 40 million quid. Leeds aren't going to spend 40 million pound on anybody. If you look at all of Leeds' signings, they've all been under 20 million pounds each, and I think that everyone on this list would cost under 20 million pound, aside from Demirovic, who I think would be a little bit more. But you always pay more for number 9 strikers. Their task is possibly the hardest of anybody on the pitch, getting those goals that are going to help you win games. So yeah, that's the latest potential Leeds United lineup there, folks. Again, obviously, we stuck to that 4-3-3 versus Everton, and then reverted back to this 4-5-1 when we weren't in possession of the ball. But when we were in possession, we were in that very advanced 4-3-3 formation. It worked really well at times. We got some very good attacks going on. Had over 12 shots in the first half and over 20 by the end of the match. So very effective. Really really good tactical prowess shown by Daniel Farke in this match. Getting things right where he can. And some real standout performances. And to be honest, there was only Stack, Goodmanson and Perry that started. Out of all the new signings, and Nemecha came on as a sub, Longstaff came on as a sub, Bornow was on the bench. Calvert-Lewin missed out because he's still building his fitness up, because he hasn't, unlike Okafor, he hasn't played a lot of football in pre-season, Calvert-Lewin, so I think they are just gradually building his fitness up. But it was really impressive from Leeds United to be able to put out that kind of performance. Certainly for the first half, you can maybe even stretch to maybe an hour. And the way that they managed the game towards the end as well. We were still attacking and keeping the ball away from the Leeds United goal in the added on time at the end of the match, and this was impressive for me. I like it. You've got your 1-0 late on, and rather than just soaking up a load of pressure, we're actually still trying to get a second goal. We're still trying to keep the ball in the Everton half, and I like that. I prefer that personally. As long as you keep a couple of players back just in case they try a counter, you're sorted, aren't you? So it was a really impressive performance from Leeds against Everton, and I think just on the balance of play that we were the better team. I don't think there's anyone that can say that we didn't deserve to win. The only thing that was lacking a bit was just that cutting edge in the final third, which players like Okafor and maybe Demirovic if he comes in, or any of the other strikers, if they come in, that's what they've been brought in for, to provide the more of a goal threat. So there we go. But what's your thoughts on this particular potential lineup, folks? Do you think that Justin, Gonzalez, Phillips and Demirovic will be signed? Do you think that it might be some of the alternatives like Buendia, Dovbyk? Haim has been mentioned as well, I think. There haven't been many fullbacks mentioned, which is a bit odd. I just wonder if because the way that the 49ers have been working this summer, half of these players, nobody knew that Leeds were actually getting them. There was a couple of obvious ones, like Okafor has been as obvious as out for the last couple of days. But then there were others that there wasn't really any rumours at all. And the rumours only came out very late on, just before signing them. So the 49ers have gone about the business pretty well in terms of keeping things fairly quiet and just doing things, as professional as possible. But I just wonder if we do end up bringing in enough players to make a totally fresh lineup. Technically speaking, we can do, or very very close to it, because if you put Calvert-Lewin up front, you put Nemecha as a 10 potentially, or even if you play 4-4-2, which is not really a Farke formation, but you can start with Nemecha and Calvert-Lewin up front. We'd only need the right back and right winger then at that point, I think, because you'd have Stack and Longstaff. You've got Okafor on the left wing. Your back four's sorted if you get Justin in. So I don't know. There's potential, but I just feel, this is just my own opinion, that Calvert-Lewin and Nemecha have been brought in to replace Bamford and Joseph, and then you want to bring in your marquee star striker. a striker with a proven goal scoring pedigree. That's something we have to try and get. There are players out there. There's players available. You've just got to find them. I did a video a little while back on players that all played either up front in the 10 or on the wings. That all had very good goal scoring seasons last season in their respective leagues, and maybe some of those could be on Leeds' radar. These that we haven't signed yet that are on this list have all been rumoured. There are rumours out there, online and newspaper reports that Leeds are interested. So we'll see what comes of it. But do let me know in the comments down below if you think that this 11 could be all signed by the end of the transfer window. Is there any other players that you've heard of that could be linked with Leeds and could end up joining them? With Leeds having to register a 25-man squad, if we got these 11 and then you've got the two other lads, Calvert-Lewin and Metcher, that's 13 new players and all of the ones that we've already got. So then you can only then include about another 12 from the squad that we currently have. There's going to have to be players leaving Leeds. There's a handful that have already left, and I think there'll be another handful that do leave before the window shuts. But I mean, this kind of lineup to me feels like an upgrade. It feels like an improvement on what we've got, or what we had, before we started signing players this summer. So we'll have to see. But I think, there's a lot of potential with this lineup. This lineup has 3 English players in it, which again helps with all the rules and regulations and quotas and all the rest of it. Homegrown players, English players, British players, whatever you want to, however you want to kind of word it. So you've got that, and then you've got players that have got experience in the Premier League in Longstaff, and Phillips would have if he was to join, Justin would have if he was to join, and then you've got players that have played at a very high level. Perry's played for Lyon, and Gonzalez at Juventus. Stack's played in the top German leagues, for Hoffenheim. Biol's played in Serie A for Udinese. Gudmundsson, Lille in the French league. Okafor, AC Milan. Even Longstaff at Newcastle. These are players that have played at good levels. Leeds aren't signing mugs here. They're trying to sign good players, and I'm quietly confident. I'm not jumping through hoops yet. We've got some very hard games coming up. Arsenal at their ground. If we get anything from that, it's a bonus. It's a bit of a free hit. Newcastle are going through a bit of an edgy time at the moment, but again, they've still got some good players. Even when you take the whole Alex Isaac situation out of the equation, they're still a very good team. So we've got those 2 matches to get past. But then once we get past those, there's a couple of games then that we might have a better chance in. So yeah, that's my take on it, folks. But yeah, let me know if you think that this lineup could be a possible lineup for Leeds, going forward. And are there any other players that you've heard rumoured, to be joining Leeds? Do please let me know in the comments down below. But in the meantime, I'll leave it at that. Big thank you for watching. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do please give the video a like. But in the meantime, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.